taking a look at this hose on our gas tank out here, you can see that it is about time to change it, because if this was sitting out here and finally decided to give away the rest of that little bit, then we would have gallons and gallons of fuel, which are up in that tank behind me, dumping onto the ground, which is less than ideal. So we've got a new hose here. This is a 3/4 inch. Before you change your hose, obviously you want to figure out what size it is. The one that we have on here currently is a 14-foot 3/4 inch hose, and that's what we have here. Looking at the connection on here, previous person actually used a 90-degree barb fitting and then just kind of shoved this over the end, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't have a hose clamp or something also securing it, but we're not going to use that hose anymore. I've already drained out the hose so that we don't have extra gasoline dumping all over the ground, and we can go ahead and get this prepared. And if your handle is still good, reuse your old handle. These inline fuel filters are pretty important when you have old farm tanks. They stop all the debris and they catch water down in the bottom, which is what this little bleeder is for. You'll want to double wrench these because we don't want to move any fittings downstream. Just get on the flat there and we can thread it out. Oh, obviously the valve is turned off on the tank. Turned that off earlier before I drained out the line. And then the only other thing that we need to thread out is the handle. There it is. And it looks like they had thread tape and pipe dope on this one. Now, it's very important that you get some sort of thread sealant that is resistant to gasoline, and the product that you have is going to tell you whether or not that is doable. So we've got some normal thread sealant tape right here, and this says specifically that it is for use in assemblies handling gasoline, petroleum, natural gas, butane, and propane. So we know we are good to go with this, since we will be using it on a gasoline application. And then in addition to that, I'm also going to use some thread sealant compound, and this one says specifically that it is rated for oils and fuels. So you just want to make sure, read on the products that you have, and make sure they're not going to dissolve when they're exposed to gasoline, because gasoline is really good at eating away other petroleum-based products, which is what a lot of sealants are made out of. So if the sealant has products in it that are going to decompose when they're exposed to the gasoline, then your joints are going to leak. We're going to go ahead and get our threads exposed, and I recommend that you leave the hose coiled up until you start threading it on, so that you don't have to fight the hose the whole time. When you're threading these on, obviously you're turning it in clockwise rotation in order to tighten it, and you don't want your thread tape to be wrapped in such a way that as you turn it clockwise, it rolls up and gets peeled off. So we're going to take this and put it on the bottom of the threads and turn it around in this direction, so that when we pull it off and turn it clockwise, it will be dragging the thread tape instead of pushing it, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll understand what I mean. And we're going to put a pretty thick layer. Apparently this vintage thread sealant isn't that nice. There we go. Over top of our Teflon tape. Being careful not to get it into the hose itself or into your fitting. We can now start threading it on, and this is the reason why I left this attached into the hose, so that we don't have to fight with the entire hose, like dangling and looping and flipping in the dirt. And this is still an application where you're going to want a double wrench. And you don't have to go crazy tight with this because we're relying on the thread tape and the pipe taupe in addition to the threads. Remove the cap, apply thread tape, apply thread sealant, and then fit your fittings together. So we've got our new hose installed, going up onto our tank, and the threads are all closed up, so the only thing left to do now is to open up the valve. The first bit of fuel we're going to dump out into a container just to make sure that there is no thread sealant or anything going directly into your engine. And I've done that now, so we can go ahead and inspect the threads, the connections that we've just made, to make sure that there is no dripping of gasoline. And I haven't seen anything dripping, and you'll want to keep an eye on it for the next couple days. Make sure it doesn't start leaking profusely from somewhere, but otherwise, as long as you're careful with the sealants that you choose to use and tighten everything so it's snug, then you should be good to go. Anyway, hope that you enjoyed and found this useful. Talk to you later.